Hello. I'd like to give my movie review of The Photograph. Well, I know the movie came out about 2 weeks ago or so. I think this weekend is actually exactly 2 weeks. And I saw it on opening night, but I had pink eye. So I did not want to get on here and do a video of my eyes like all nasty conjunctivitis. So I had to heal from that, and it took me a while before I could actually put on some makeup. So I figured that I think this is like my second time wearing makeup since Valentine's Day. Might as well just go ahead and do a quick video for you guys. I wanted to give my eye time to heal. It was really messed up. So I'd like to give movie reviews from the perspective of a writer because it's different. So, of course, you know, sometimes people watch a lot of movies, the movie buffs, but it's different when you are viewing it from the lens of someone who writes for a living, who creates plots and creates characters. So I wanted to kind of give my feedback about it. I think we can all agree that the soundtrack was awesome sauce. This soundtrack was banging. I was like literally in the movie theater jamming to the soundtrack. It was awesome. And that's usually the first thing people say when I was like, what did you think about The Photograph? That soundtrack, girl, that soundtrack. I was like, yes. So the soundtrack was awesome. And there was an overarching theme of, well, we'll get to that at the end. But just some of the notes that I wrote during the movie is I like how the past story unraveled. I like how they were showing snippets of what happened between May's mom and May's father. How they created that whole backstory. It wasn't just this is what happened between my parents and then, you know, jump to 2020. It was a long, drawn out, here's a snippet, here's a morsel. And at some points, I got so caught up in the backstory that I didn't even want them to come back to 2020. I was like, no, go back. What happened? Oh my gosh. I mean, it's kind of painfully obvious what happened because I realized quickly that the guy she was calling dad was not her dad. But I love how they weave the stories in and out of each other. I thought that was brilliant. I love the way that it's done. And I also am a big like history buff, not in real life. Like I don't know a lot of history, but I love watching period pieces and things that happened back in the day. So seeing that unraveling slowly really to me built the story. It built The Photograph, the movie itself. Something else that I really loved was how Michael met her and quickly realized that she had some unpacking to do, some emotional unpacking. And he didn't run for the hills. He wasn't afraid of it. I feel like in today's society, that cancel culture is something that we suffer from tremendously. Like, I want you to accept me for who I am, flaws and all, take all my baggage, take all of my unpacking, take all of my emotion, take all of my shortcomings, but I want you like to be perfect. So when he saw that she had some unpacking to do, he didn't mind staying there for it. I really could appreciate that, especially being a single person. You know, we all have unpacking. We all have issues, but it's hard to find somebody who wants to be with you through those issues. And it's hard to be honest with somebody because you're afraid that they might leave you or they're going to judge you. So I like how Michael gave her that freedom to be, and he gave her that freedom to explore that side of herself, the painful past with her mother, not necessarily knowing who her dad was, just trying to figure it all out. I love how he made room for that unpacking and didn't run away. At first, their romance, like that first dinner date, is so coy and refreshing, you know, throwing little hints here, little jabs here. And then I was wondering if it was too soon to kiss you. It wasn't. It was like, oh, you know, the butterfly, the little emoji with all the little hearts around it. I was like, oh, yes. But then it was like, there's a hurricane in New York that requires everybody to leave. Like, we have to evacuate in New York. I mean, it happens, but how often does it happen? And now they are having sex just like that. Boom, just hey, I'm coming over to help you pack some stuff up and then we sleeping together. That seemed a little bit rushed. And it seemed like, well, I'll get into that in a minute. Positives. I like that the cast is familiar. You see their faces, you know their faces. You may not necessarily know their names. So they're familiar in that they're not random actors and actresses from obscurity, but they're not so familiar that they're overdone, overworked, and we're tired of seeing them. I thought that was great. And I also liked the theme of history repeating itself, how her mother had a hard time saying goodbye and had a hard time dealing with her emotions and processing her emotions and talking about things, and so did May. It may not have been to the degree that her mother had a hard time, but she still had a hard time processing her emotions. And I think, now going to the negatives, that is kind of what overshadowed her relationship with Michael. I felt, well, maybe it was just the characters. It didn't seem to be any, like they weren't in love. They just looked awkward. It was like, I have a lot of guy friends and I hang out with my guy friends like, hey, like I'm one of the homeboys or whatever. And I felt like that's how it was. There was a little bit of interest there, but there was no chemistry. I didn't feel a chemistry between May and Michael, which really, Lakeith and Issa Rae, I didn't feel like there was a chemistry there. I love the both of them. I love their acting, but I did not like their acting together. I did not think that they were a great couple for this type of movie. They definitely could have casted that better or worked on their chemistry a little bit better. I don't know. Maybe they could have had some one-on-one time leading up to the filming of it, but there was no chemistry between them. And I felt like in terms of the plot, the fallout and climax of the movie seemed a little lackluster. So people were saying this was like the 2020 Love Jones. I don't know. I don't get that. I understand that all love stories don't have to have a struggle of. I do believe when you go through something with someone, it makes your love stronger. Because when you go through something, you realize that you could lose that person, or they realize that they could lose you. And you're going to see that the person who doesn't want to lose the other person is going to do what it takes to keep them there. And that was part of May's, the hard time. She didn't know what to say, how to say it, like, homie, don't go, let me come with you, or like, let's try to work this out. He seemed willing to do it. She wasn't. And then it was just awkward. Like they're just standing at this place in New Orleans and everybody is happy and jovial around them. And it just, I don't know, that whole part was awkward. Overall, I really could appreciate. Overall, the theme is love will make a way. And I like how they came back together at the end. It wasn't cataclysmic. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, like you really are rooting for them. I don't feel like it was that kind of plot where the writers were really pulling at your emotion, pulling at your heartstrings. They're called tendinae cordae. That's what they're really called, heartstrings. But I don't really feel like the writers were able to pull that emotion out of the audience. But the overall theme of love making a way, they got back together in the end. And it was like, oh, okay, that's cool. So it's a positive Black movie. I'm here for it. It's a Black movie of a unique kind. I'm here for that too. As a romance writer, I write all genres, but for myself, I write romance, and I like to explore emotions and explore relationships between people, how they break up, get back together, what kinds of things can happen between them meeting and realizing that my breath hangs upon your existence. I like to kind of explore that. I don't feel like May and Michael ever got there. They never got to the point where their breath hanged on the other person's existence. Her mother and her father, though, that could have been a movie in itself. That backstory was amazing. And what I would like to see is the photograph too, but really, really exploring that back relationship, the relationship between her parents. That backstory was emotionally taxing. I wanted them to work it out. I wanted him to say something. I wanted her to tell him that this is your child and I'm sorry I took her away to New York. Like, I wanted that mom to just woman up and make it happen. And she did not. She passed away without ever telling him, which again, I thought was like, what? That's so awkward. But anyway, see the photograph if you have not. Let's support our arts, support our Black writers and our Black authors. I'm sorry, Black actors and actresses, because we need representation. Representation matters, and this is a good film. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to start rating these movies if I keep doing these reviews. But on a scale of, let's say, 1 to 5, I give it a 3.25. The photograph is pretty. The soundtrack, whew, that's 5 stars. All right, I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.